studio. It's our pleasure to welcome now. We got the Roundtable in the studio. The transportation commissioners that represent the 3 districts of the state of Mississippi. In the north, it's John Caldwell. In the central district, it's Commissioner Willie Simmons, also the chair of the commission. And then in the south, it's Charles Busby. I'm looking in the wrong direction there. He represents the southern district. All 3 of you gentlemen, welcome to the Element Well studio. And we're here to talk a little bit about the 2025 session. And something I think, Commissioner, a lot of folks out there in Mississippi are curious about is how you 3 individuals work together collaboratively to address the infrastructure needs of the state of Mississippi. Commissioner Simmons, you want to start?
Gerard, I'm so grateful to be a part of that organization, and you are correct. We do work close together. We consider ourselves to be friends and supporters. We all been involved in state government, supervisors and representatives and senators, and 93 commissioners who had the responsibility of operating the Department of Transportation from the point of view of the policies and $1.4 billion budget annually, 2,700 employees, and my 2 good friends on the side of me, both are Republicans. I'm a Democrat, serving as the chairperson. We don't see party highways and bridges. We see highways and bridges that need money, and we work together to make sure the state of Mississippi is taken care of in that manner.
So I'll ask you this of you, Commissioner Caldwell. How do you guys go about prioritizing projects? You obviously represent the North, Commissioner Simmons, Central District, Commissioner Busby in the South. We got this $1.4 billion pot of money. How do you go about figuring out, how do we allocate this to make sure that we're prioritizing where priorities need to be, et cetera?
Well, thanks for having us, Gerard, and certainly I'll echo Commissioner Simmons' comments as we do work well together, and setting those priorities is not as difficult as you might think. One is we listen. We listen to our constituents, one of the beauties of having an elected commission. So we listen. We travel the area. We know our own areas, and we know where the needs are. So that's and if we don't, the representatives and the senators will let us know quickly that, hey, we have some problems over here. And so when you look at maybe a road that's not in good shape, you also need to look at whether it's got high traffic or low traffic and what the potential is and what the safety factors are. So, and we have a huge staff that is so capable. I mean, our staff at MDOT is able to give us the kind of information that makes our decisions fairly easy in that regard. Yeah.
Commissioner Busby, the state has certainly been blessed with some big economic development wins. And infrastructure plays a key role in attracting these projects. It does across our entire state. Capacity, of course, is something you guys are focused on. Maintenance, I guess roads and bridges are kind of like horses and boats. I mean, you think you're done once you build the road or the bridge, but it's
eternal. It's not. We got to maintain it. That's right. I mean, that's part of the 87 highway program was. Built a lot of great roads, but not a lot of money for maintaining those roads. And before we go much farther on the show, we had an opportunity last week where we had winter weather down on the Gulf Coast, and I want to say thank you to Commissioner Caldwell for sending the snow plows down to the Gulf Coast. And we never thought that we'd ever see the day where we would need snow plows on the Gulf Coast and they wouldn't need them up in the northern part of the state. So thank you for allowing us to borrow those. We really needed them. They really came in handy. And I would shout out to my crews down in District 7, District 6 for the way they handled that. Great job, guys. I really appreciate all you did.
Yeah.
Now, what was your question again?
So I was just talking about how do we make sure that we're building for capacity that's needed to support the economic growth in the state, and we got to maintain existing roads and bridges as well. And you got $1.4 billion. We've got a fuel tax, as you guys talk about all the time, that's been stuck in neutral since 1987.
That's right, and it's time to update that. And I think everybody recognizes that. I think our legislature recognizes that. By virtue of the fact that over the past 2 or 3 years, we've been able to get one-time monies to start these programs back. So if they didn't recognize that we had this issue, we wouldn't have gotten that money then. So as we move forward, it's important to show that our state is committed to those things with recurring funds, so that the feds don't interrupt what they're doing for us. We have programs where we help LPAs, cities, municipalities, counties on projects, and we make certain that those municipalities and those counties have the monies to pay their part of those projects before we commit our dollars to those projects. And the same is true at our level with the feds. The feds make sure that we have the dollars to put towards those projects before they commit their monies to us. So if they see that we're not committing the monies, then they'll hold back the funds as well.
Executive Director White, Commissioner Simmons, as you know, talks about this all the time, that we're losing out on opportunities to tap additional funds because, and I may be describing it incorrectly, but we've got to essentially prove to the federal grant decision makers that we have the means and the recurring revenue coming into the state at the state level to maintain whatever infrastructure is built with those funds.
Let me say, Brad White, you mentioned Brad White, and we are very fortunate to have been able to steal him from Governor Reeves and bring him over as our CEO. He has been phenomenal. So thanks, Brad, for your leadership of the 2,700 employees. But you're correct. It's kind of like the old statement, he who fails to plan, plans to fail. And the federal government requires us to have a planning program in place to show where we have the monies to do projects and complete projects. And as a result of that, they are very supportive. Our budget is like 51% Fed, 49% or so state funding. So we need dollars that we can plan with and show the feds that the state of Mississippi is investing in the future and willing to invest that money. We spend our money, and then we get reimbursed from the federal government. So it's a good partnership. We've been very fortunate to have good leadership in our congressional leadership who support various programs, and we have been able to get discretionary grants from the Secretary of Transportation through the various raised grants and other pots that put money into the state. But we truly need recurring dollars, as Commissioner Busby indicated, and that's where the legislature is so important. We are not the Ways and Means maker. It is the legislature who's had the responsibility, and we are very impressed and pleased to see now the legislature discussing through House Bill 1 the possibility of giving us recurring money, which has never occurred since in a big way since 1987. So we hopefully that's some good stuff come out of that sausage making process in the legislature and give us that recurring money we need.
What do you think about that, Commissioner Caldwell? As the HB 1 that Commissioner Simmons refers to would impose a 5% sales tax on motor fuel purchases. This is a little different model than the present excise tax on fuel. Is there a reason why the legislature opted, the House in this case, for a sales tax as opposed to increasing the excise tax?
I don't want to get into their heads, I don't guess, but we gave them a dollar amount.
Okay.
I mean, we really didn't tell them how to go about, skinning that cat, but
Gotcha.
we know how much money we need to maintain the roads, and we don't have enough. So there's been a lot of discussion on ways to go about it. And the Senate has been good to us. The House has been good to us. The governor's been good to us. They've been putting it on the table, and they've been saying, here, we're starting to recognize that we have these needs, and we're in position to make a difference. So my hat's off to all of them for stepping up. The House Bill 1 is a viable program. Of course, it's a tax reform bill as much as a transportation bill for us, but we're definitely appreciative of the effort that they put forward and put a viable plan in place. And I know the Senate's getting ready to come back up with their plan, and they'll all converge, and we'll be supportive to try to get us something that's going to make a difference.
Commissioner Busby, the Senate is planning to come up with something as well. What do you say to those in the public that I hear this all the time, and just anecdotally and certainly on the text line, that the Department of Transportation has a lot of extraneous expenses and unnecessary labor and so forth. If they could reduce costs, and that should provide enough funds to take care of our needs, we don't need to increase the sales tax on fuel. How would you respond to that?
I would say that they don't have to manage that on a daily basis. Certainly, I know. I'm one too.
You hear it too.
I do, and I've gone by sites and I see, 2 or 3 guys working, 2 or 3 guys not working, and I get a lot of calls about that. That it takes place in lots of places, but you also don't know everything about what's going on right there. You don't know what those guys are doing. They may look like they're standing around, but maybe they're not. But we need to cut every way we can. Now, recently, we did some stuff to work on some bond debt that we had, and minimize that bond debt. And I forget the dollar figure that we saved the taxpayers of Mississippi, but it was significant. And we continue to look for ways that we can reduce costs everywhere across that agency.
Okay. If you guys can hang around with us, we'll tackle this issue in another segment after the break. We got the Transportation Commissioner Trio in the Element Wealth studio. Charles Busby from the South, Commissioner Willie Simmons from the Central District, Commissioner John Caldwell from the North. We're coming right back. Stay with us. It's our pleasure to have the 3 transportation commissioners for the great state of Mississippi, John Caldwell in the North, Commissioner Willie Simmons, the Central District Commissioner, and then, of course, in the South District, it is Commissioner Charles Busby. So we were talking before we went to break, Commissioner Busby, about this rather sweeping tax reform bill, HB1. The Speaker of the House, Jason White, a huge proponent of this legislation, a champion, a sponsor of it, as well as House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Trey Lamar. The governor, of course, would like to see this done as well. This is really, I think, the first legislation we've seen on this scale, shall we say, that includes a component that would provide dedicated funding, additional dedicated funding to the Department of Transportation, that from a 5%.
Significant.
Estimated in the $350 to $400 million a year range. Right. But you've got to also remove the $80 million you're receiving from the Mississippi Lottery Corporation.
True. Because
we're changing that. So somewhere between $300 and $400 million estimated to be additional. Is that right?
That's
net?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that, just HB1 overall?
Well, I like the bill. I think there are probably opportunities to improve it, and I think our friends in the Senate will do that. I hope they'll look at the bill with an open mind, and the really, really smart guys over there, including the Lieutenant Governor, super smart guy. I know that he can come up with some ideas to improve that bill. I hope they will do that. I hope they'll be open to it. Put their mark on it, send it back to the House, and let's get this thing confirmed and send it to the governor's desk is what I hope happens.
Commissioner Caldwell, you have any thoughts about this legislation?
Well, I'm not endorsing legislation per se, and I don't want to go there just because of the precedent it sets, but not because it's a bad bill.
Okay.
And all bills are imperfect. And the sausage making that's been discussed is definitely interesting to me. It's not something I've been involved with, as other 2 commissioners have been directly involved with it. But I'll tell you what I do like. I like the people that we have working for us. And not so much the numbers and the policy crunching that a lot of people do and I don't do. But we have good people in the House working hard for their constituents and trying to make a difference in the state of Mississippi. We got good people in the Senate working hard for the people of Mississippi trying to make a difference. We got a good governor trying to make a difference. And when you put the good people together, I think the good policy will follow. And so I'm very encouraged with what the House has put forward, and very optimistic on what the Senate will follow with as well.
Okay. Commissioner Simmons, this $300 to $400 million, it's sort of hard to predict because we don't know exactly how much fuel people are going to buy, and all we have is historical precedent to make these estimates. If this legislation fails and we're stuck where we are, you guys have relied pretty heavily on surpluses generated in the general fund the last, 2 or 3 years, and that has allowed the legislature to essentially just transfer a big pot of money to the Department of Transportation to take care of our needs. It's a little risky to rely on those circumstances going forward. This legislation pretty much assure this additional funding. If where I'm going is, Commissioner Simmons, if this legislation doesn't happen and the legislature faces a situation where they don't have additional funds, excess funds to send to the Department of Transportation, what does that mean to Mississippians?
Well, it costly, very costly to Mississippi. When you don't have money then to plan and carry out projects, they're delayed, and the more longer you delay them, the more it costs you. We could be faced with a situation from the federal government. We rely heavily on the federal government giving us dollars. We saw in 2018 where we had to have a special session, and the federal government was basically saying to us, if you don't take care of those bridges, we're going to pull your dollars. We could see those kind of things happening in the future, and if we don't get additional money, we could be facing a crisis. It's very cost-saving because when we have money to repair bridges and roads, it's actually save you, the taxpayer, money because you aren't tearing up your vehicle through front-end realignments and replacing rims and tires. So in addition to the kind of saving that you see in House Bill 1 that the House is proposing, it's additional saving because of the wear and tear on your vehicle that you don't have if you have good highways. And that's what Commissioner Busby and Commissioner Caldwell, along with Brad and myself, can do in planning to take care of those bridges. Before the lottery, we didn't have any kind of maintenance dollars in the budget, so we saw our two-lane highways in the state had not had any work done on them in 20 years. Very bad condition and very harsh on vehicles. So when I hear individuals say, when they do these things and you're going to pay more if you put a tax on fuel, sale tax, yes, it's going to cost more money by you having to pay that tax, but it's actually saving you money because we are protecting your vehicle. In addition to that, the way this bill is designed, it not only helps the Department of Transportation, but it puts more money into the counties and municipalities that will allow them to take care of their infrastructure and other things. It's going to be a good measure, and I know that when you introduce a bill having served in the Senate for 26 years, it always changes a little bit. So the Senate is going to have its time to play with it and look at it. But in the end of the day, I'm hoping that they don't kick the can down the road, because if they do, they're kicking us into a crisis mode and going to put us in jeopardy of losing federal dollars if we don't get the recurring money we need.
A couple of things to follow up that your statements, your comments reminded me of is this bill does include a 1.5% increase on sales tax rate on non-grocery items, including transactions that occur in the county that aren't in a municipality, and those additional funds would stay with the county. And even though a county or municipality could opt out of that, at the county level, I believe they would lose some state road funding as well.
Well, in 2018,
Isn't that right?
Along with the lottery, we put in place, and Representative Busby was there, at the Chairman Busby at the time, we put in place to use the diversion tax.
Yep.
That's been very good for counties and municipalities, but they're going to get 15% more than what they're currently getting. And they don't have the restrictions that we currently have in the diversion use tax, because the diversion use tax, although it's defined broadly, but it's confined to dealing with infrastructure. And they can't replace anything that they're currently doing with that money. This new proposal that they're bringing forth will not have those restrictions on it.
Okay, gotcha.
But I do believe, Gerard, that the 1.5 that would be in the counties, I believe, goes to state aid.
Yeah, I think that's right as well. And I thought there was some sort of catch in that.
As the bill passed the House, I believe it goes to state aid.
Yeah, okay. Well, and so something else you could do for us, perhaps Commissioner Caldwell, is just, this is confusing to a lot of people. What is the Department of Transportation responsible for in terms of the roads and bridges we all travel on every day? And what is the responsibility of counties and cities with respect to roads and bridges?
That's really a good point, Gerard, because you see that on the street, and people will say, well, what about state aid roads? Is that state? That's not us. The state aid roads belong to the county.
Okay.
MDOT is responsible for every state highway and every federal highway.
Okay.
So if it's a state route, U.S. route, federal interstate highway, that's ours.
Okay.
And that's ours for any construction addition we need to it, any bypasses that may go around some town, or basic maintenance. And when we talk about basic maintenance, we talk about how short we are on money. We're so short on money, we become short on people. I mean, we've bragged a little bit about the people we have, and we've got some good people, and we've got a lot of them. But we had one county, Monroe County in particular, went from April to August one year with 0 employees. 0. I have probably a 33% of what I need in several counties. And when you get a couple of counties side by side and one's got 2 people and another one's got 2 people, you don't even have enough to borrow to do flagging, to do basic maintenance of fixing a pothole safely. And so we've got some real challenges, and part of it, it's all about money. And so that's why when we talk about helping us, we're going asking for money, but there's a reason for it, because we know how short we are and we know what it takes to get our roads in better shape.
Yeah.
Those 18-wheelers carrying our cargo, they don't unload when they get off state highway. They don't unload their cargo. They continue to travel on county roads and municipal cities, streets. So we need good infrastructure, holistic, from one end of the state to the next.
And so I think the point is, Commissioner Simmons, is that this additional sales tax that would be dedicated to state roads or county roads, I should say, in the county, and then the municipalities get more money as well, that they can take care of their infrastructure. Because if you look at the income and expense statement of a city or a county, infrastructure, roads and bridges is top of the list, is it not, as far as their expense model?
A good example is the ERBF program in 2018 also. In addition to the divergent use tax and the lottery, we put in the ERBF, $250 million bond bill. And that year when we received applications from the cities and municipalities, it wasn't $250 million they needed, over $1.some billion. So money is needed at every level.
Gotcha. Commissioners, really appreciate you guys joining us today. Insightful conversation. Thanks for what you do for the state of Mississippi.
Thanks for having us on.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Gerard.
Thank
We're
my
coming
colleagues.
right back. You bet. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.